Hello family. Welcome to Morales Stories, your home for gripping African tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Now sit back and enjoy the drama. Nia moved through her apartment like a conductor guiding an orchestra, each flick of a candle flame, each rose petal in place, perfectly synchronized to the soft jazz drifting from hidden speakers. The dusk light slipped through gauzy curtains, painting the room in warm sepia tones. In the center of the dining table, a three-tiered vanilla cake sat untouched, its frosting hand-piped into intricate swirls. The room smelled of roses, wax, and something bittersweet, the hope she'd tied to this evening. She smoothed the deep red silk of her dress, the one Derek had called dangerously perfect, and glanced at her reflection in the mirror. Her dark curls framed her face like a halo. Tonight was their 3-year anniversary, a milestone she'd marked with meticulous care. 3 years of laughter, tears, whispered secrets, and stolen kisses under street lamps. 3 years of building a world together. And tonight, she'd planned to remind him why their world was worth saving. Her phone lay on the console by the door. She glanced at it. No missed calls. No messages. Not even a tiny running late text. A small ache pulsed in her chest. She picked up her flute of champagne, letting its cool sparkle calm her nerves. The soft chime of the doorbell made her heart leap. She set the glass down and smoothed her dress one last time, then opened the door. Derek stood there, hands shoved in the pockets of his trousers, shirt crisp but collar askew, eyes fixed somewhere beyond her. No flowers in his hand. No apology on his lips. Just the echo of 3 years of promises. "Happy anniversary," she said, her voice low and steady. He nodded once. "Hey." Silence hung between them, thick and uncomfortable. She stepped aside. "Come in." He did, closing the door without a word. His gaze flicked around the room, candles, petals, cake, before settling on the round table. The air felt heavy, like breathing underwater. "Dinner's ready," she said, forcing a small smile. "I made your favorite." He took off his jacket, draping it over a chair without looking at her. Then he walked over to the mini-fridge, cracked it open, and pulled out a beer. The cap popped off with a sharp hiss. He didn't notice her watching. She tilted her head. "No flowers." His gaze drifted to her face, irritation flickering. "I'm exhausted." "Exhausted from what?" Her voice was gentle but edged with steel. He shrugged, unscrewing the cap. "Work ran late." She held his gaze. 3 hours late. He drank, cool liquid sliding down his throat. Then he looked at her collar, her dress, just for an instant, and his face hardened. She crossed her arms. "I waited." He ran a hand through his hair. "I'm sorry." She felt the word land, frail and limp. "Sorry doesn't warm the cake." He frowned. "Cake." She reached up, brushing the back of her hand against her neck. "The one I baked. 3-tiered. With your favorite chocolate drizzle." His eyes flicked to the cake, then back to her. "I didn't know." "You didn't know," she repeated softly. "You didn't know your own anniversary." He opened his mouth, closed it, stared at her. Finally, "Nia." She took a breath. "Look." Her voice trembled but didn't break. This was supposed to be special. He set his beer down, approaching. "Can we please just talk?" She held up her hand. "Not here. Not now." Her shoulders relaxed, as if she were lowering a shield. "I need space." His brows knit together. "Space? On our anniversary?" She swallowed. "Yes." He took a step forward. "I can make it up to you." She shook her head. "No. You can't tonight." She paused, voice softening. "I need to remember who I am without waiting on you." He opened his mouth again, but she didn't give him the chance. She turned, walked past him, and left the room. The click of the door was the final note in a song she no longer wanted to sing. That night, Nia lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The soft glow from the city lights outside cast moving patterns on her blankets. She thought of the cake, still uneaten. She thought of 3 years of birthdays, vacations, rainy Sundays spent reading on the couch. She thought of the small knot of fear that had grown inside her, Fear that she'd wake up one day and realize the person beside her had slipped out of reach. Her phone buzzed. Tasha. Tasha. How's the anniversary queen? She typed with a trembling thumb. Nia, he's just running late. She erased it. Typed again. Nia, not great. Then deleted. Finally, she let it sit unsent. At dawn, Nia woke with a pale promise of morning. Derek's side of the bed was empty, cool and undisturbed. She pressed her palm to the sheets, felt the hollow weight. On the nightstand, a note lay under her glasses. Her name, written in Derek's neat script. She picked it up. Needed space to think. N. She stared at it. No explanation. No apology. Just distance. She got up, leaving the apartment with nothing but her clutch and a new resolve. She didn't take the extra set of keys. She didn't pack a toothbrush. She didn't look back. By mid-morning, she found herself at a luxury car rental lot. Behind the glass sat a red convertible, a Ferrari Portofino, its curves gleaming like a promise. She approached the desk, heart pounding. "Can I help you?" the rental agent asked, polite but bored. "I'd like to rent that," she said, nodding at the Ferrari. He arched an eyebrow. "That's a serious upgrade." She pressed her lips together. "It suits my needs." He keyed a few details into his computer. "Will this be a one-day rental?" Nia considered. "Make it 3. The agent hesitated. "We need full ID and a deposit." She slid a credit card across the desk, one with no limits he could trace. She'd set it up for emergencies. Tonight was one. As the agent processed her information, Nia stared at the car. It seemed to pulse, impatient to take her somewhere new. By noon, she was gliding along the highway. The wind whipped her hair, and for the first time in days, her chest felt open, air filling spaces that fear had hollowed out. She rolled down the windows and let the world roar back to life. Her phone buzzed. "Sasha. Hey, heard about your anniversary. Want to grab coffee?" She stared at the message, thumb hovering. "Coffee," she muttered. "Not today." She tapped. "Nia. Busy." She blocked the contact afterward. No distractions, no apologies, no excuses. Just clarity. The convertible's engine purred as she turned off the highway onto the city streets. Every head turned at the sight of the red Ferrari. Drivers gave way, pedestrians gawked. She felt electric, alive in a way she hadn't for months. She parked in front of a rooftop restaurant she'd always admired but never visited. The valet took her keys with a nod of respect. Under her sunglasses, she smiled. Inside, she slid into a plush velvet booth. The view framed skyscrapers and distant hills. The city bled into the horizon. A server appeared, white-gloved and smiling. "Good afternoon, madam. Table for 1. She laughed softly. "Actually, 2. One for me, and the other for my old life." The server blinked, charmed. "Right this way." He led her to a private table at the edge of the terrace. They offered her the wine list. She ordered champagne. As the bubbles arrived, she raised her glass to empty space. "To new beginnings," she whispered. A text buzzed. "Derek. Derek, please call me." She glanced at her phone, then out at the view. She typed, "Nia, I'll be unreachable for a while. Thanks for understanding." She didn't send it. Instead, she ended the rental agreement on her app, just the Ferrari, no ties. Champagne finished, she rose and walked to the rail. Below, cars flickered like fireflies. She took a deep breath of cool air, letting the city's pulse sync with her own. She closed her eyes. She remembered the laughter, the kindness, the dreams they'd shared. She let those memories wash over her, and then let them go, like petals drifting on water. When she opened her eyes, she was ready. She returned to the valet, slipped into the Ferrari, and started the engine. It roared to life, and she drove away, toward freedom, toward herself. The road stretched out, full of possibilities. Behind her, the rooftop faded into the distance. And somewhere back at home, Derek woke to an empty bed and a silent phone. He wouldn't know where she'd gone. But she would know exactly where she was heading. Because sometimes, to remember who you are, You have to burn the world you knew, and watch the flames light your path forward. The morning after her silent exit, dawn light crept through the blinds to find Derek sprawled on the living room couch, shirt rumpled, eyes red with fatigue. He stared at the blank TV screen. No sports, no news, only the emptiness that Nia had left in her wake. His phone sat beside him, screen dark. He'd texted her 20 times, every message unread. He'd called twice, went straight to voicemail. He thumbed through their shared photos, vacations in Bali, late-night cooking experiments, lazy Sundays on the balcony. In each one, she beamed at him. In his chest, guilt stirred like a storm. He shoved himself up, pacing. The apartment, once brimming with her laughter, now felt cavernous. He went to the bedroom. Hers was empty. No clothes, no shoes, no toothbrush. Just a note on the pillow in her handwriting. Needed space to think. N. 3 words that felt like shards of glass. He reached for it, crumpling the paper before stashing it in his pocket. His mind raced. Where could she be? Did she take the car? The dog. He checked the driveway. No car. He opened the front door. No footprints in the dew. Panic rose. He grabbed his keys, phone, and wallet, and bolted outside. Nia coasted down Elm Street in the Ferrari Portofino, every curve of the car humming under her command. The city was waking, shopkeepers flipping signs, early joggers on the sidewalk, coffee trucks brewing ahead. She passed them all, hair streaming behind, heart lighter than it had felt in months. No calls. No texts. No demands. For the first time in a long time, the only voice she heard was her own. She peeled off onto the boulevard, spotting the car rental lot where she'd picked up the red convertible. She pulled in, heart skipping. The valet raised an eyebrow as she killed the engine. "Back so soon?" he asked, leaning against the counter. She slid from the driver's seat. "Need to swap for something a bit more practical." She smiled, handing him the keys. He pocketed them. "Got you covered." He led her to a sleek black SUV waiting behind the Ferrari. "Here. Luxury, but discreet." She touched the door. "Perfect." As the valet handed her the keys, her phone buzzed. "Derek, where are you?" She stared at his name. She could almost hear the desperation. But she typed back coolly. "Nia, on my own." She locked the message and slid the phone into her clutch. The valet opened the SUV's door. She slipped inside, closed it, and drove off, toward her plan. Derek burst into Tasha's apartment 20 minutes later, breathless. The door swung open before he could knock. She'd been waiting. Her small living room was immaculate. Cushions fluffed, scented candles burning. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, colorful scarf tying back her curly hair. "Derek," she said, surprised. "What's wrong?" He ran a hand through his hair. "She's gone. Nia's gone." Tasha's eyes widened. "Gone how?" "She left a note. Said she needed space. She took the car." Tasha frowned. "She wouldn't just vanish." He paced. "She did. I've called, no answer. Texted, nothing. I'm an idiot, Tash. I messed up." She softened. "Okay. Breathe. Let's think. Where would she go?" He sank onto her sofa. "I don't know." Tasha sat beside him. "She's proud. If you chase, she'll pull further away." "But I need to." "No," she tapped his knee. "Not now. You apologize. Sincerely. Give her time." He closed his eyes. "Time's all I ever took." Tasha squeezed his hand. "Then show her you deserve it." She stood. "Come on. Let's get coffee, clear your head." He nodded, grateful. Together, they left her apartment, two souls tethered by shock, neither sure which way Nia had gone. Back in the SUV, Nia navigated downtown traffic to her next destination, the boutique co-working loft where she'd reserved a private studio. She parked in the curbside spot, paid at the kiosk, and entered the building. The receptionist, used to her, offered a friendly, "Good morning, Nia." She slipped an access card, took the elevator up, and walked the hallway lined with art installations. Inside the studio, exposed brick walls and floor-to-ceiling windows made it feel like a sanctuary. She set her bag on the desk and powered on the laptop she'd rented along with the space. On screen, her calendar, half empty until next month. She opened a blank document titled, My Terms. She began to type. 1. I control my time. 2. I trust my instincts. 3. Emotional investment is earned. 4. No apologies for self-respect. 5. I honor my own path. She paused, rereading. A flicker of doubt passed. Was she being too hard? But the silence answered her, no. She pressed ahead, saving the document. Her phone buzzed again. Derek. She silenced it. Another message, SAS, blocked. Tasha, unread. She turned off notifications altogether. This was her day, her plan. Outside, Derek and Tasha strolled a tree-lined sidewalk, coffee in hand. He sipped but barely tasted. He watched faces passing, wondering which one might be hers. He glanced at Tasha. I need to fix this, he said. She smiled gently. You will. Just let her find you. He frowned. How? At the door. With flowers. With honesty. With patience. He nodded, but doubt knotted his stomach. He knew he'd taken her for granted. He'd dismissed her plans, brushed off her dreams. He'd committed 1,000 small betrayals. Now the loudest one, the unmade anniversary, had left them both gasping. Inside the studio, Nia stretched and walked to the window, gazing out at the bustling street below. She thought of the diner where she and Derek had shared pancakes on lazy Sunday afternoons. She thought of the late-night drives when he'd sung off-key, and she'd laughed so hard she cried. She thought of the promise he'd made, forever, spoken under a starlit sky. And she thought of how that promise had slipped through his fingers like smoke. She closed her laptop. She'd written her terms. Now she needed a plan. She needed to test his resolve and her own. She reached into her bag and pulled out a manila envelope. Inside, a professionally printed lease agreement for a luxury one-bedroom apartment across town. Fully furnished, 6 months paid in advance. She traced her finger over the lease's signature line, then looked at the date, today. She'd signed it while stressed, impulsive, but perfectly in control. She slipped the lease into the envelope, sealed it, and tucked it into her clutch. Later, the city's afternoon sun dropped low, painting the sky in salmon and lavender hues. Nia exited the studio and walked to a nearby cafe. The barista greeted her by name. What will it be today, Nia? Herbal tea, please. Jasmine. She smiled, slid into a corner table, clutching the envelope. She watched as shoppers and commuters streamed by, anonymous. A moment later, the tea arrived. She cradled the warm cup, inhaled the floral steam, and closed her eyes. She pictured Derek sprinting through these streets, confused, panicked, desperate. She felt a pang, then shored it with satisfaction. He needed to feel small to realize what he'd lost. But she tempered that with compassion. She still cared. A gentle ping on her phone jarred her eyes open. It was a calendar reminder, pick up new apartment keys, 6 p.m. She allowed a small smile. Across town, Derek and Tasha sat on a park bench overlooking a fountain. Tasha studied him. When do you plan to talk to her? He stared at the water. Tonight. She nodded. Do it right. No excuses. No defensiveness. He clenched his jaw. I'll be honest. I'll be vulnerable. She stood. Good. Now go find her. He rose, leaving the coffee untouched. At 5:30 p.m., Nia pulled into the parking garage beneath the luxury apartment building. The elevator ride to the lobby felt like a heartbeat. She stepped onto the polished marble floor, greeted by a velvet rope and a concierge in a crisp suit. Ms. Roberts, he said, checking his tablet. Your keys, please. She handed over a small key card tied to an ornate silver fob. She signed her name and took a glossy folder from him. Congratulations on your new home, he said. Welcome. She thanked him, then slipped the folder into her clutch and headed for the elevator again. As the doors closed, her phone buzzed. Caller ID, Derek. She stared at it. His voicemail hadn't been checked since this morning. She pressed ignore, then held her breath. The doors opened at her new floor. She stepped off into a hallway lined with modern art and recessed lighting. Each door bore a number and a silver plaque. She found hers, slid the folder into its hands, then inserted the keycard. The lock clicked open. Inside, the apartment was everything she dreamed. Open-plan living area, floor-to-ceiling windows, hardwood floors, a sleek kitchen, plush bedroom, and a balcony overlooking the city skyline. The morning sun had painted it golden. She set her clutch on the island. In the foyer, she placed the envelope, lease agreement front and center on the console table. Then she walked to the living room, slipped off her heels, and stood barefoot on the cool floor. She breathed in deep, feeling the space fill her lungs. She whispered to herself, "I am home." At that exact moment, Derek burst into the lobby of the same building, out of breath, jacket disheveled, hair mussed. He spotted the concierge. "Have you seen her?" he asked, voice urgent. The concierge glanced up. "Ms. Roberts. In apartment 1204, I believe." Derek's heart thundered. He ran to the elevator, pressed every floor button until he saw 12. The doors dinged open. He bolted down the hallway. Apartment 1204, the door stood ajar. He froze, panic twisting inside. Inside, moonlight filtered through the windows, no lights on. The couch was empty, the kitchen silent. He stepped inside. "Nia," he called. Silence. He approached the console table. On it lay the envelope, thick, black, professional. His name was printed on a gold-foiled label, Derek Williams. He lifted the flap. Inside, the lease agreement. His heart sank as he read. "Derek, thank you. Because of you, I remembered who I am. Because of your indifference, I found my strength. Because of your betrayal, I built my future. This is where I will live, grow, and heal, far from the man who forgot my worth. Nia, ***. He sank to his knees, the envelope trembling in his hand. Guilt, regret, and love collided in his chest. He stared down the hallway, but the door remained closed. No footsteps. No goodbye. In that moment, Derek understood the coldest truth. When you let someone go, sometimes they never return, and the space you leave behind becomes their sanctuary. Dawn's pale light seeped through the bedroom curtains, casting soft stripes across the rumpled sheets. Derek stirred, shifting beneath the warmth of yesterday's argument. He reached out, expecting Nia's side of the bed to yield under his hand, but instead met only cool linen. His eyes snapped open. "Nia," he whispered into the empty room. Silence answered. He bolted upright, blanket pooling at his waist, and scanned the room. The wardrobe doors hung slightly ajar where she'd left them. Her heels and clutch were gone. On the pillow lay a single sheet of paper in her handwriting. Needed space to think. N. His heart lurched. He seized the note, fists clenching. A crushing wave of panic washed over him. He leapt from the bed, scrambled into clothes, and rushed through the apartment calling her name. No footsteps in the hallway. The front door stood closed, locked. Under the welcome mat, her shoes had vanished. He snatched up his phone. 20 missed calls to her number. A string of unanswered texts. "Derek, where are you? Derek, please talk to me. Derek, I'm sorry." He dialed, held the phone to his ear. Straight to voicemail every time. His chest tightened, breath hitched. In the sleeve of his shirt, he still carried the lipstick-stained collar she'd discovered. He pressed it against his heart, but it burned. 2 hours later, Derek found himself outside Sasha's downtown loft. He rattled the doorbell until it chimed. When Sasha opened the door in a silk robe, hair tousled, her eyes widened. "Derek," she said, concern flickering. "What's wrong?" He stormed inside, heart hammering. "She's gone. Nia's gone." Her robe fell from her shoulders as she guided him to the couch. "Gone how?" He flopped down, running a hand through his hair. "She left a note. Said she needed space. Took my keys." He pressed the crumpled paper into her hand. No messages, no calls. Nothing. Sasha smoothed the note, reading it once. Then she looked up, eyes soft. "You two were fighting." "It was just one fight," he said, voice cracking. But it was the last straw. He stared at the floor. I ignored her. Again. She paused. You need to stop ignoring her. She handed back the note. Give her what she asked for, space. And then fight for her. He shook his head. What if she doesn't come back? She placed a hand on his arm. Then she's shown you who she is. But she might. If you prove you've changed. He swallowed, nodding. But doubt gnawed at him. Was this the end? Meanwhile, across town, Nia navigated the bustling streets in a sleek black SUV. The red Ferrari was back in the rental lot, replaced by something more discreet. She pressed her shades against her face when she parked in front of a small cafe they'd once visited together. The one with mismatched chairs and locally roasted coffee. She entered, greeted by the barista's smile. Morning, Nia. The usual. She nodded. Latte, oat milk, extra shot. She slid into a corner seat, clutch on the table, and exhaled. Pulling the envelope from her purse, she slid it across the table. Inside, the signed lease for the new apartment. 6 months fully paid. She skimmed the bold letters one more time. Lease agreement. Tenant, Nia Roberts. Premises, luxury 1-bedroom, Highline Residences. Term, 6 months from today. Rent, fully paid. She folded the paper, tucked it away, and stared at her reflection in the window. She hardly recognized the woman there, wide-eyed, determined, free. Her phone buzzed. A single text from an unknown number. Nia, your dog's at my place. Call me. She bit her lip, relief and irritation mingling. She texted back. Thanks. Fetching him now. She grabbed her keys and dashed out. At the dog-sitter's, a cozy townhouse a few blocks away, her golden retriever, Milo, bounded to the gate. The sitter, an older woman named Mrs. Adamma, handed Nia his leash. He's been asking for you, Mrs. Adamma said, stroking Milo's head. You've got a strong pup there. Nia laughed, kneeling to hug him. Thanks, Mrs. A. I owe you. Mrs. Adamma patted her hand. You take care of yourself, dear. Nia inhaled the afternoon air. The sun felt warm on her face. She clipped Milo's leash and they stepped into the street together, 2 refugees reclaiming the world. They wound through a leafy park where children chased pigeons and elders played chess under shade. Milo tugged her toward an ice cream stand. Nia bought him a small cup of vanilla. He sniffed it, licked a dollop, then trotted happily. She settled on a bench overlooking the fountain, Milo at her feet. Ice cream in hand, she let herself feel the weight that had lifted. Yes, she was heartbroken, but she was also alive, capable of joy again. Her phone buzzed again. Derek. She stared at his name. Her finger hovered. Her chest tightened with old familiar pull, but she resisted. She pressed ignore. Instead, she opened her notes app and began writing. Day 1. Woke with quiet. Picked up Milo. Bought latte and lease. Ate ice cream with my best friend. Felt joy, then guilt, then resolve. Asterisk asterisk. She tapped save and shut the app. Today was for her. Later, Nia and Milo strolled through a weekend market. Artisans displayed hand-woven baskets, spice jars, colorful fabrics. She paused at a stand selling natural skincare. Under a thatched canopy, a woman in a green head wrap showed her jars of shea butter and hibiscus scrubs. Perfect for a fresh start, the vendor said. She scooped a sample into her palm. The scent of citrus and earth filled the air. Nia closed her eyes, inhaled, then smiled. She purchased a jar. For the new me. The vendor nodded approvingly. May it serve you well. Nia tucked the jar into her tote bag, small but symbolic. She and Milo continued wandering until afternoon shadows stretched long. By early evening, Nia returned to her rented studio to gather her things. The sunlight slanted through windows, setting the exposed brick aglow. She packed her laptop, notebooks, and sketches into a canvas bag. On the desk lay the list she'd begun. My terms. 1. Control my time. 2. Trust my instincts. 3. Emotional investment is earned. 4. No apologies for self-respect. 5. Honor my own path. She read it again, confirming it held her truth. She closed the studio door behind her, clicking the lock with finality. Derek's day had been a blur of guilt and worry. By late afternoon, he found himself outside the building where Nia's new apartment waited. He didn't know why he'd come here. Impulse, hope, fear. He pressed the buzzer for her floor. 12. A security guard peered through the panel. "Can I help you?" Derek swallowed. I'm looking for Nia Roberts. I need to talk." The guard hesitated. "Do you have authorization?" Derek's throat went dry. "No. But Sorry, sir." The guard cut him off. "She's not receiving guests." Derek exhaled slowly, stepping back. The lobby's glass doors felt like the barrier between his regret and her new life. He leaned against the marble pillar, hands shaking. Back on her apartment's balcony, Nia breathed in the purpling sky. The city's bustle was hushed from this height, just a gentle hum. Milo lay beside her, head in her lap, eyes half closed. She looked at her phone one last time. New message. "Derek, I'm outside. Please." Her thumb hovered, heart racing. Part of her longed to answer, to rush into his arms, to forgive. But she remembered why she left. The cold indifference, the unanswered calls, the lipstick stain, her worth ignored. She pressed block and set the phone aside. Instead, she reached for her sketchbook. She began to draw, a single red rose breaking through cracked pavement, roots winding deep below. She sketched its petals, vibrant, defiant, then shaded in darkness around it. It felt like her, delicate, fierce, grounded. As the final light faded, she traced the words she'd written this morning. "I am home." Her gaze drifted to the horizon. Behind her lay the ashes of what once was. Ahead lay possibility. And in that quiet moment, she felt something she hadn't in years: peace. The sky was a canvas of molten gold and bruised purple when Nia slipped out of her new apartment. In one hand she carried her sleek black tote, in the other, a slim black envelope sealed with red wax. She paused in the foyer, listening to the city's distant hum, and took a steadying breath. Tonight was the night she'd decided weeks ago, but never truly believed she would have the courage to carry out. She crossed the lobby, gave a curt nod to the concierge, and stepped into the valet area. The black SUV she'd driven all day waited in its spot, but beyond it glinted the Ferrari Portofino, its scarlet paint shimmering in the streetlights. She'd swapped back at sunset, wanting all eyes on her. She slid into its cockpit, heart hammering, and watched the valet's eyebrows rise as she tossed him the keys. With a throaty growl, the engine sprang to life. Across town, Derek stood on his front porch, shoulders slumped against the column. His shirt was untucked, sleeves rolled, as if he'd spent the afternoon scrambling through thoughts rather than chores. The house behind him, once warm with Nia's presence, felt hollow. He'd returned here after wandering the city, hoping familiarity might soothe his panic. Instead, it reminded him of everything he'd lost. A sleek black sedan pulled up first, Sasha's. She stepped out, heels clicking on the brick path, carrying 2 paper cups of coffee. "I thought you could use this," she said, pressing a cup into his hand. Her eyes searched his face, sympathy tinged with something else. He stared down at the steaming coffee, then at her. "Thanks," he said hoarsely. I don't know what to do." She offered a gentle smile. "Give her time. If she drove all the way here, she might need to see that you've changed." He closed his eyes, the weight in his chest constricting. What if she never comes back? She reached out, brushing thumbs over his knuckles. "Then you'll know you tried." He opened his eyes, regret etched deep. "I still love her." His voice cracked. Sasha swallowed. "I know." She stepped back toward her car. "I'll be here if you need me." She paused. "But maybe, give her a moment alone." He nodded, eyes fixed on the street. Nia navigated the narrow lanes toward Derek's house, every street lamp reflecting in her sunglasses. The convertible's engine rattled softly, announcing her arrival before the car was visible. When she turned onto the tree-lined drive, she saw 2 figures framed on the porch, him slumped against the column, her silhouette tall beside him. The sight twisted something inside her, tenderness, sorrow, and an all-consuming resolve. She eased the Ferrari to a halt 30 feet back, killed the engine, and let the red car's growl fade into reverent silence. The tires hissed as she set the parking brake. She removed her sunglasses, revealing eyes that glinted with determination. A warm breeze teased her hair, and she tuned into the moment, the perfume of jasmine from the hedges, the distant bark of a neighbor's dog, the last light of day balanced on the horizon. Derek looked up. His jaw dropped, eyes widening in shock. Sasha, perched on the hood of her sedan, scrambled off. Her confident posture faltered. The two of them froze as Nia swung open the car door and stepped out. She wore a fitted charcoal blazer over a crisp white blouse, charcoal trousers tailored to skim her curves, and red stilettos that clicked like punctuation on the stone path. Her hair was pulled back in a sleek ponytail, and her lips bore exactly the same shade of red she'd worn at their anniversary dinner. Everything about her radiated control. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Sasha's eyes narrowed, flicking from Nia's face to the envelope in her hand. She swallowed, stepping back. Derek stood rooted, mouth ajar. Nia lifted her chin. "Good evening, Derek." His voice came out rough. "Nia, what are you doing here?" She set the envelope on the hood of his car, the paper black and thick. "I told you I needed space." She reached behind her, pressed both hands on the convertible's roof, and took a breath. "I thought you should have this." He glanced at the envelope, then back at her. "What is it?" She straightened, arms unfolding. "You'll want to read it." Sasha, cheeks paling, muttered, I need to go." She backed away, nearly tripping over the driveway's edge. She threw one last glance at Derek, her eyes saying she'd hoped for something more permanent, and then slipped into her sedan and roared away. Nia watched her go, expression unreadable, then turned back to Derek. The porch light flickered on, casting long shadows. Derek's knuckles whitened as he reached for the envelope. His pulse pounded so loudly he was certain she could hear it. He lifted the flap, but stayed still, awash in the gravity of the moment. Nia drew in a slow breath. "I've built my life on your indifference," she said quietly. "This contains everything you need to know." She paused, letting the words settle between them. 6 months' rent. My own place. My own terms. I took the dog too. She offered a small, bittersweet smile. "I hope you'll read it." He swallowed, stepping forward. "Nia, please." She held up a hand. "No, please, tonight." Her voice was soft but firm. "Tonight you listen. Tomorrow, we'll see." She pivoted, high heels clicking as she strode back to her Ferrari. Derek watched her every step, torn between relief, longing, and the ache of his mistakes. She slid into the driver's seat with the same poised grace, lit the engine, and without looking back, she pulled away. The convertible's taillights glowed like embers as it slipped into the street. Derek leaned against his car, clutching the envelope to his chest. The roar of the engine faded, replaced by a ringing silence. He exhaled, the breath trembling on his lips. He looked down at the black paper in his hands. The wax seal, a single red rose imprint, caught the porch light. He peeled it back, but stopped himself. Whatever lay inside would change everything. He backed away from the car, stepping onto the lawn where the jasmine scent had first matched her scent. He pressed the envelope to his chest, closed his eyes, and let the moment linger. When he opened them, all that remained was the still night air, holding its breath for him to decide what to do next. In the distance, the street lamp buzzed, and somewhere a cricket trilled. But in that hush, Derek felt the weight of his choices more keenly than ever. The black envelope in his hand felt like the last key to her heart, now locked away, waiting for him to turn it. Derek's hands shook as he crept through the dimly lit hallway of his home, the black envelope heavy between his fingers. The porch light still glowed outside the front window, casting long shadows across the polished hardwood floor. He had carried the envelope inside, uncertain whether to rip it open on the porch under the sky where Nia had first parked her red convertible, or here, where every corner of this house whispered memories of her laughter and warmth. Steeling himself, he placed the envelope on the coffee table, the glossy surface reflecting its matte black finish. With a trembling thumb, he broke the seal, the red wax cracking in protest. Inside, 2 items, a rental agreement, neatly printed on ivory stationery, and a single sheet of paper folded like a letter. He lifted the agreement first, eyes widening as he scanned the terms. Nia Roberts, tenant. A luxury one-bedroom apartment at Parkside Heights, fully furnished, leased for 6 months starting this week, rent fully paid. Furnishings included a queen-size bed, leather sofa, stainless steel appliances, and an enclosed balcony overlooking the skyline. Pet deposit, 1 dog, Milo, approved and covered. Derek read and reread the document, stomach tightening. She had done it. She had torn herself free. He put down the lease and unfolded the letter. The paper smelled faintly of jasmine, the scent she favored when she wanted him to remember how she smiled. The handwriting was hers, precise and deliberate. Derek. Thank you. Thank you for the silence. It gave me clarity. Thank you for the lipstick. It gave me proof. Thank you for the cold dinner. It fed my growth. Thank you for forgetting my birthday last year, and the nights you spent scrolling your phone instead of holding my hand. Thank you for dismissing my dreams, for brushing off my concerns, and for teaching me what indifference feels like. I have learned that my worth is not measured by your attention, but by my own love and respect for myself. I have learned that gratitude stems from empathy, that trust is earned, and that home is not a person but a safe place I carry within me. My new home awaits, Parkside Heights, apartment 1204. I am proud, strong, and free. Please do not call. I will not answer. Nia, ***. Derek clenched the letter, vision blurring. Each word was a knife, cutting through years of comfort and complacency. He sank onto the sofa as memories flooded back, her laughter dancing across the balcony at dawn, the warmth of her palm in his hand, the sparkle in her eyes when he surprised her with sunrise coffee. He saw her in the kitchen, barefoot and radiant, humming her favorite song. He felt the softness of her hair against his cheek after a long day. He tasted the sweetness of her forgiveness once offered, now distant. He smelled the jasmine in her shampoo. Each memory was a promise he had broken. He realized silence had become his greatest sin. For a moment, he sat there, heart pounding, stunned by the finality in each line of her letter. His mind flared back to the morning sunlight that had glinted off her eyes when she caught him texting at dinner, to the way her shoulders had tensed at the sight of the lipstick stain on his collar. He remembered the countless times he'd chosen work over weekends with her, the nights he'd dismissed her worries as trivial while scrolling through his phone. He recalled the first dinner she cooked after his promotion, spaghetti carbonara made from scratch, and how her face had lit up when he tasted her effort. He remembered late-night drives when they had sung along to their favorite songs, windows down, laughter echoing through empty streets. He thought of the date at the botanical gardens when she danced barefoot among daisies, her joy so infectious he'd promised her forever under a summer sky. And now, each memory felt like a jewel torn from a necklace he had carelessly dropped and scattered across the floor. He pressed the pages to his lips, hoping to taste forgiveness in the ink, but all he tasted was ash. His thoughts raced. How had he allowed neglect to eclipse love? How had he become the man who forgot birthdays and dismissed silences? He staggered to his feet, the lease agreement folded in his pocket, and realized that no confession could erase the years of contempt he'd sown. If he truly wanted her back, he would have to rebuild trust from the ground up, brick by brick, day by patient day, until he earned back the woman he had lost. A sudden roar outside froze him. The engine note, deep and hungry, cracked the night air. He rushed to the window, heart hammering, and threw open the curtains. The red convertible was gone. The driveway was empty, save for the black SUV Nia had used earlier. The streetlight revealed only wet pavement and fallen petals clinging to the tires. Derek yanked on his jacket and sprinted out the front door, the letter clutched in his fist. He slid down the porch steps 2 at a time. The envelope fell open in his pocket, but he ignored it. He fumbled for his phone, dialing Nia's number with fingers slick. No answer. Straight to voicemail again. He pounded on the door of his neighbor's house, breath coming in ragged gasps. The porch light flicked, then turned off. No help. He sprinted to the garage, threw open the door, and jumped into his own car. His hands fumbled with the keys. He started the engine with a roar of desperation. Tires squealed as he tore onto the street, following the faint echo of that engine note. Sirens wailed in the distance, some random emergency, or perhaps the echo of his own panic. His headlights cut through the night, illuminating empty streets. He turned corner after corner, shouting her name into the wind. Nia! Nia! He spotted the SUV parked halfway down the block. His heart lurched. He braked hard, fishtailing before regaining control. He jumped out and ran toward it, but the driver's side door opened. Nia stepped out, illuminated by the street lamp, a silhouette of confidence and independence. He froze, words catching in his throat. She turned, lift of her chin proud, her eyes cool in the glare. He swallowed. Nia. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The red convertible idled behind her, engine ticking as it cooled. She stepped toward him, the SUV's door clicking closed behind her. Milo appeared at her side, tail wagging, eyes bright. She placed a hand on his head, then hesitated. Derek covered the distance between them in 2 strides. "Please," he breathed. "I read your letter. She shook her head, eyes filling with tears she refused to shed. "No. You didn't understand." Her voice was brittle but clear. "You heard the words, but you didn't earn them." He clutched the lease in his hand. "I will earn them." Her eyes flicked to the paper. "Not with words." She gestured to Milo. "You can't buy loyalty. You can't traffic in promises." She drew a breath. "I have a home now." She glanced at the convertible. "And a life." Milo nudged her hand, reminding her of gentler things. She knelt to scratch between his ears, then stood. She met his gaze. "Remember what indifference taught me." She started toward the car. "Remember well." Derek watched her every step, torn between relief, longing, and the ache of his mistakes. She slid into the driver's seat with poised grace. She looked back at him, eyes steady. "Goodbye," she said softly. Then she drove off, Milo happily at her side, and the taillights disappeared around the corner. He dropped to his knees where the letter lay on the pavement. He gathered the pages to his chest, tears he could no longer hold spilling down his face. The night was silent. The wind whispered through the trees. The world had changed. And he knew, with a grief that hollowed him, that nothing would ever be as it was before. The apartment was quiet when Nia returned. Not silent in a lonely way, but in a way that felt earned. Peaceful. Like a breath finally released after being held for too long. The kind of quiet that lets your heart beat without interruption. She stood at the door for a few seconds after locking it behind her, listening to the steady ticking of the wall clock, the hum of the fridge, and Milo's soft snoring from his dog bed in the corner. She stepped out of her red heels, one at a time, and padded barefoot across the hardwood floor. Outside the windows, the skyline blinked in shades of gold and blue, a city alive with noise, but her space remained still. Free. She poured herself a glass of water, sipped slowly, and let her shoulders drop. Everything she needed was right here: clarity, solitude, and a door that locked behind her, not to keep someone else out, but to keep her peace in. She glanced at her phone lying on the kitchen counter. No new messages. No missed calls. She didn't expect any. She didn't want any. But the stillness was soon interrupted by a sound she didn't expect: 3 short knocks. Then silence. Then 3 more, slightly louder. Her breath caught. She tiptoed toward the door, careful not to wake Milo. She peeked through the peephole. Derek. She closed her eyes, letting her forehead rest against the cool door. He hadn't given up, then. Some part of her had known he wouldn't. She turned the lock but didn't open the door fully. Just enough to see him. His eyes were bloodshot, shirt wrinkled, hair tousled. But his hands were steady. He wasn't holding flowers or gifts. Just something small and black in his hands, the letter she'd written. He raised it slowly. "I read it again." She said nothing. "I've spent 3 days reading it. Line by line. Word by word. And not just with my eyes." She opened the door wider, leaning against the frame. "That doesn't mean you understand it." He nodded. "I know." His voice cracked. "But I came to say thank you." Her brows rose, cautious. "For what?" she asked. "For waking me up. For not staying and making it easy for me. For showing me the truth without screaming it." She crossed her arms, shifting her weight. "I didn't do it for you. I did it for me." "I know," he said. A beat of silence stretched between them. I let you disappear for a long time, he continued. Right in front of me. I saw it happen, and I let it happen. I figured you'd always be there. He held up the letter again. But when I read this, I realized something terrifying. This isn't a goodbye letter. Her heart clenched. No. He shook his head. It's a resurrection letter. You wrote your rebirth, Nia. And I was never invited. Her breath hitched. And I won't beg to be, he added quickly. But I needed you to see that I finally see it. All of it. She stepped outside, folding her arms tighter. So why come here? Because I didn't want your last memory of me to be confusion. He glanced around. And because I needed to let you go the right way. She blinked, caught off guard. I came here not to pull you back, he said, voice low. But to push you forward. You earned this, Nia. All of it. Her throat tightened. So this is your goodbye. He nodded. With the engine on. She let out a soft breath, eyes shimmering. You think a speech fixes everything? She asked. No, he replied. But maybe it releases something. She looked away, biting her bottom lip. You broke something in me. I know, he whispered. And you built something stronger in its place. Another long pause. Then Nia stepped closer. Do you regret it? She asked. His face fell. Every day. Would you take it back? No, he said. Because if I did, you wouldn't be her. Who? The woman standing in front of me. Whole. Alive. Unapologetic. Her heart twisted. She hated how the truth of that warmed her. How it hurt. How it healed. She glanced down at Milo, who had padded out and was now sitting quietly beside her, tail wagging as if he, too, understood the weight of the moment. Derek looked at the dog and smiled. He's happier. We both are, she replied. I can see that. A silence settled between them again, full this time, not hollow. Do you still love me? He asked softly. She swallowed. Love doesn't leave overnight. But it does evolve. His eyes glossed over. And where is it now? She smiled sadly. In recovery. He nodded slowly. Then I'll leave it there. Safe. Where it belongs. She opened the door a little wider, stepped fully outside, and extended her hand. No hard feelings. He took it, shook gently. Only deep ones. They shared a quiet laugh. It wasn't bitter. It wasn't mocking. Just real. Derek stepped back toward the elevator, tucking the letter inside his jacket. One more thing, he said. She looked at him, waiting. I won't try again. Not unless you invite me to. She offered a slight nod. Thank you. He took one final look at her, barefoot on the threshold of her new life, dog by her side, eyes clear like glass, and then he smiled. Take care of yourself, Nia. She whispered, You too. And just like that, he turned and walked away. 15 minutes later, Nia stood on her balcony, watching the red convertible gleam beneath the streetlights. She sipped chamomile tea from her favorite mug and stroked Milo's head as he curled against her. The night was quiet again. No drama. No betrayal. No phone vibrating with half-hearted apologies. Just the hum of traffic below and the occasional whistle of the breeze. She looked up at the stars, her heart not heavy, but aware. Not broken, but wiser. She sat down in her balcony chair and opened her sketchbook. Her fingers moved quickly, as though guided by muscle memory. She drew the red convertible first, bold lines, soft shadows. Then a woman in the driver's seat. Sunglasses. A letter in her lap. A dog in the passenger seat. The city stretching before her. And beneath it, she wrote, A man who can forget love will remember loss. Loudly. The final line of her story with Derek. The beginning line of her story with herself. She looked down at Milo. We're going for a drive tomorrow. He wagged his tail. She smiled. And with the engine of her healing finally humming, she closed the sketchbook, set her alarm, and walked back inside, ready for whatever came next. The end. Loved the story? Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and become part of the Morales Stories family. Your support helps us bring more powerful African tales to life. Thanks for watching. We can't wait to share the next one with you. See you soon.